actually continue to follow along. But we could see that it appeared they had both hands on the steering wheel. It didn't appear to be fidgety or moving around inside the car. That certainly is a good sign. Sometimes we look in there and we see somebody that is talking on the phone, really not looking at the freeway, or they're agitated, possibly under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Although from the look of this vehicle and the way it's driving, it doesn't appear that that's the case. I mean, you never know. But this individual seems to have control of the vehicle. When they make their turns, they seem to do it on purpose, there to go around another vehicle. So it's hard to say for certain, but we do understand that a CHP helicopter should be overhead here in a moment. We're on the 405 freeway. We're in the Seal Beach area, traveling past Los Alamitos. The next intersection the vehicle comes up on would be either staying on the 405 south or continuing eastbound on the 22 freeway. And the helicopter is now just overhead. Pull out of your shot just a little bit, and I think you'll see him fly by. And there is the CHP helicopter. So right now he'll be able to get controls out to the patrol cars on the ground. A supervisor will take a look at what they have. They'll consider the traffic conditions. They'll consider the speeds of the suspect. They'll consider possibly what that suspect is wanted for, anything more than just speeding. They can run the plates. They have an idea whether or not that vehicle is stolen. From there, is it the registered driver? Maybe they got to look at the driver. They can pull that up with the driver's license and see if it matches the person that vehicle is registered to. So, oh boy, look at that. Now, they clipped that car. And as I mentioned earlier, that's when things really get dicey, and that can change the way law enforcement looks at continuing to pursue this vehicle. If they do back off with the helicopter overhead, which they may, they would do that because they feel that they don't want more instances like that. But that seemed to be really close for no reason. It seemed like there was would have been easy for that vehicle to get around that, and they decided not to and made that close call. So we're on the 405 freeway, and it looks to me we're going to continue south on the 405 and not get on the 22. But that almost looked to me like it actually just grazed that vehicle. Tilt up, push in. Yeah, and with the CHP helicopter up overhead, and then they'll start to make that decision, and they very well could go into surveillance mode and say exactly what you said, Leslie. We can get this person at a later date. It doesn't look like they're a threat to the freeways if we're not right behind them. And a lot of times they go into the surveillance with the helicopter overhead. They pull off the ground units, and then they watch from the helicopter. And if the person goes back to driving the speed limit and is not a threat to the public, then they'll stay in that surveillance mode. In many instances, it really can be difficult to predict what law enforcement is going to do. And most of the time it's just because we don't have all the information. So we don't know who that person is inside the vehicle. We don't know maybe if they've already contacted the family or the registered owners. We don't know if they think maybe someone else inside that vehicle. And so all those factors, it's so dynamic, really has a huge influence on how they approach these things and how they follow along in the pursuit. For us at this point, we're headed down to the Fountain Valley. And the 405 freeway southbound still looks good. It may stay good all the way down into South Orange County as far as traffic is concerned. And I've got a mixed minus there. If they could get rid of that in transmission, I'd appreciate it. Nope. It's got an echo. I mean, I can report. I just want to get that out there because it's frustrating. Yeah, I apologize because it's difficult for me to understand you, but yeah, that certainly was a close call back there on the 405 freeway southbound. It looked like they almost clipped someone. We've seen the demeanor of the driver, though, really sort of ease back a little bit, and that's encouraging because, you know, when the vehicle first tried to get away, we had reports of well over 100 miles an hour. The CHP picked this vehicle up. We understand saw it go by speeding on the 405 around Manchester there by LAX and Inglewood, and then it just darted from the information we have, got well up over 100 miles an hour. And then since we picked it up, it looks like the speed has lessened a little bit. It appears the suspect at this point in time doesn't believe they're going to actually be able to drive fast enough to get away from law enforcement. The helicopter is up overhead. That certainly is encouraging. Right now, though, they have not gone to surveillance mode. They still have the patrol cars behind. We're seeing a little more volume up ahead on the 405 southbound as we make our way down through Huntington Beach, down past Warner, and then into Costa Mesa. Certainly way too much traffic for CHP to try and do something like a spike strip. It's too much flow on the freeway. That would be hard. Once they get off the freeway, that changes a little bit. They can do a pit maneuver and hit the vehicle from behind as long as the speeds aren't too high when they go around turns. But right now it looks like they're sort of forced to just follow along here. And it doesn't appear that there's a huge threat to the community or the freeways right now. And that's good news compared to what we saw earlier. Yeah, there has been a few. I would say the majority of the pursuits that we follow are males, but certainly there have been quite a few that I recall that were females. And obviously, it doesn't matter; they've got to take this the same way. And I think at this point in time, there's still a lot, at least unknown to us, and I'm certain unknown to them as well. Because unless they know who this person is, they are able to figure it out. They don't know if they're a felon. They don't know if they've taken the children and the children are in the back. There's a lot of things they don't know, and so that's just what makes it so tough in these types of situations for the police to try and figure out the best way to handle these things. But at this point in time, they have told us it's a female. Bear with that information, though, because sometimes on these types of situations and these pursuits, we get clips of information that's not exactly accurate all the time because it just comes in so quick. There have been situations where we've heard it's a man behind the wheel, and it turned out to be a woman. So in this case, they're reporting it's a female. We're going to get alongside it a little bit, and we're going to go in on the doubler and see if we can maybe get a better look. But the speeds at least at this time are only a little bit over the speed limit. There's not much traffic volume or slowdown on the 405 all the way down into past Costa Mesa from where I can see. And so hopefully the vehicle will just stay in this lane and not do what it did a few moments ago and make an abrupt turn and graze another vehicle. Are you going on the doubler? Can you descend a little bit for me, Dan? Can you descend a little bit or not? Do you need it for the PD? Okay, that's fine. Creep forward a little bit. Absolutely, and your shot may be a bit better than mine. Your monitors are pretty small in here. I can't tell that that's a female. What you can tell, though, is they have their hand on the wheel, and they look fairly calm. You don't see a lot of fidgeting. You don't see them talking on the phone. And that's encouraging, too, because you want someone who drives at these types of speeds to be able to control the vehicle. But we just haven't been able to get the angle to confirm that it is a woman driving that vehicle. We don't see any movement in the back seat or in the right front seat, so that's encouraging as well. Hopefully it's just that one individual on board. And then the speeds that we're seeing the vehicle travel about the speed limit right now, so that's a little bit better than what we saw earlier also. There's a couple of CHP units up ahead here. It's interesting. Open up a little bit. You see them right there? See if they're going to come out after him. No. Yeah, we're on the 405 freeway right next to John Wayne Airport. So still South 405, crossed the 55 freeway just a moment ago. There was a couple of CHP units in the Gore Point there a moment ago. They just let the vehicle go by and they didn't do anything. Possibly they were looking for the possibility of getting a spike strip out. But as I mentioned, that's really difficult on a freeway, especially when you have other cars. They don't want to put one out and then cause another car to hit it and maybe be in a crash. So they have to take all of that into consideration. 405 freeway southbound now, leaving John Wayne Airport, headed towards South Orange County, and really no slowdown up ahead. So I think in a situation like this, there are more patrol cars now pulling in behind. You see that? There's at least 5. So it's interesting. They have not decided to go into a surveillance mode and just follow this from the helicopter overhead. They are keeping patrol cars behind this vehicle on the freeway. The vehicle, for the most part, you know, you look at a car like this and you start talking about whether you see the type of driving where they could be under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And the more I take a look at this, I mentioned earlier, it didn't look that way because they were making really good turns into and out of traffic. But now it looks like this vehicle is sort of swerving quite a bit. One moment they'll be on the double yellow line, then they'll be off to the right side. So you never know. That could be a factor. CHP does have a helicopter overhead now. They have vehicles on the ground. And at this point, I think everybody's just hoping this ends peacefully. We don't see a lot of danger right now on the freeway. It's 405 freeway south, once again making their way down towards what would be the El Toro Y, where the 405 and the 5 merge. But the vehicle's staying in the carpool lane for the most part. And besides that one erratic turn where it looks like they clipped that other vehicle that you had seen, it appears the suspect is staying in just one lane and only moving when they have to get through a little slowdown in the traffic. And right now in the carpool lane, but halfway between that line, you see that? And the fast lane and the carpool lane, what makes you wonder about alcohol and drugs when you start to see that type of driving. Oh, look at that. Look at that. They did when those CHP officers were out and they got the spike strip. Yeah, nice. That was a tough spot. They were only able to do that because that vehicle came into the far left lane, and they were hiding behind the K-rail, and they must have just thrown it out, and the vehicle did hit it. Now, a couple things happen here. What will happen is the vehicle will be able to continue to travel, and then all of a sudden that tire will come completely off, and then you'll be on the rim, and then the vehicle becomes extremely difficult to control, especially at higher speeds, and at some point in time, the rim will even collapse if you drive on it long enough. But at this point, the vehicle can't travel very fast. The vehicle's into the dirt. Open up just a little bit. I want to see what's ahead here. And it could be that the suspect is really having a hard time controlling it. And the faster the speed, the more difficult it will be to control that vehicle. And if CHP can stop all the traffic from behind them, which is what they'll do, they'll try and stop everybody. Now they can set something up to really maybe try and stop this here on the freeway. I can't tell if it's just the left front or possibly the right front, the angle we have, and we have to stay on the side to coordinate with the helicopter overhead. But if it is just the left side, it'll take a little longer. If it's both front, then it really makes it difficult to control the car. Oh boy, look at that. So this is really dangerous because when it tries to make turns, you can travel a straight line and it's not too bad. But when you try and make a turn with that tire flat, and especially as it starts to come undone and you start to get onto the rim, you can get in a bad accident. You can just lose complete control of that vehicle at higher rates of speed once you're down to the rim. Right now, just traveling in a straight line is not too bad, but if the suspect tries to make some turns at this speed, it could get ugly. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Look at that. There it goes. There goes the tire. And you're right. They should not be traveling at this high rate of speed without that left front tire and on the rim. Now, that rim will disintegrate at this speed fairly soon. You'll start to see some sparks flying out of it more than likely. The suspect will lose control of the vehicle, And then what happens is if that rim collapses at this speed, at 85 miles an hour, this vehicle could flip over several times. It could be an extremely bad accident, a violent accident, and then if there's other cars on the roadways, they could be at risk as well. But the car's not going to be all that controllable, although it looks like the suspect's doing a pretty good job at this point in time. But at this rate of speed, at some point that rim is going to collapse, and when it does, the vehicle will not be controllable at all. Right now, they're fortunate they've been able to keep this kind of speed and maintain control of the vehicle, but that's going to change. That can't continue for long. Well, yeah. Yeah. You got to wonder what's going through the suspect's mind at this point. I mean, there's patrol cars behind him. There are helicopters overhead. You've got a tire out completely. You're riding on the rim. You know, it's noisy inside there because that rim's making a lot of noise, and you're still just not giving up. It's somewhat amazing that rim is still on there, and it's okay. Let's push in there. Because a lot of times when I followed pursuits in the past, the rim will just start to disintegrate, especially at higher speeds. So, you know, some rims are made out of different metals than others. This could be steel. Some other rims, you know, they make them so they're lighter. They may be out another composite, and they certainly don't have the strength. But this rim really appears to be holding up fairly well. But it will not hold up forever. It's eventually just going to fall apart. And when that happens, the vehicle will be really difficult to control, and the speeds will have to really slow. So at this point, let's just hope the suspect does start to slow it down a little bit, and they don't lose control of their vehicle next to another car and hurt themselves or someone else. Push back in. That's good now. We fixed it. Push in the rim. Say again. Okay. Push in again. Yeah, we just found out it's a Ford Focus. Somebody was able to identify that for us. Push in as tight as you can. You know, Leslie, you mentioned this, but the driver just does not move. It's like they're glued to that steering wheel. The hand almost doesn't move. 10 and 2, and they appear to be just focused as can be on what they're doing. In most cases, we follow these pursuits, and somebody's on the phone, and they're looking around, and they're turning their head to the back to watch what the police are doing. But we haven't seen this individual. We believe it's a woman. We haven't seen the hand move, which is a little unusual in a situation like this. We're getting off the freeway now. This will change things, yes. Yeah, they'll be able to do a pit maneuver if the vehicle slows. You'll see that when she hits the brakes, it's going to be very difficult to control. And if the vehicle goes around a turn without too much speed, then they'll hit the rear portion of it and try and get it to flip around. So that will be the strategy, I would think, from here on out. Now, the suspect is not going to stop. We're at El Toro Road off the 405 freeway southbound, and it looks like if they try to make a right turn, it wouldn't surprise me if that patrol car comes up alongside that vehicle as it makes the turn. See, going straight ahead, you can't do the pit maneuver. You need the vehicle to start to make a turn, and then you hit the opposite rear end of the vehicle, and it flips around. And also, when you on a rim like that, it's very difficult to accelerate. It just doesn't take off. So once you're at a standstill, it's hard to get the vehicle going once again. It takes a lot more power. The fact that rim isn't really starting to wobble and come off is somewhat amazing. You see as they try to hit the brakes there. Okay, and this would be interesting. Open up a little bit. We'll see what CHP does here. Still no movement from the driver. We believe that's a woman. The two CHP cars are right behind, and we've seen no other movement in there. I have a feeling, though, if the vehicle does make a turn, they'll try the pit maneuver. Yeah, it looks like the vehicle is going to try and stop here at this red light. So at least we're seeing some composure and not just running through a red light. We've seen a lot of that in the past when vehicles are trying to get away from officers. Go in tight, would you? We can move a little bit, try and get that pole out of the way. You see that rim, boy, it's held up extremely well considering there's absolutely no tire on it at this point in time. And we'll try and glance in here. We're on Paseo de Valencia at Via Estrada in the Laguna Hills area. You see how that spins? So it looks like it's a front-wheel drive vehicle, and you can see it spin and start to get going. You see some smoke coming off of it now. It wouldn't surprise me if it won't be long before it collapses or starts to disintegrate. But it also would surprise me if CHP doesn't try a pit maneuver as soon as the vehicle makes a turn. They don't like to put their patrol cars in front of a vehicle to stop it because they don't want to put themselves in danger. You have to understand, they don't know if this individual's armed. They don't know for sure if there's not somebody in the back of the vehicle, and they don't want to be rammed by that car. Procedure may be to open fire on somebody who drives a vehicle right at them. So they're trying to avoid that. They're probably not going to get in front of it. We're not seeing a real danger to the public right now as we travel on Paseo de Valencia. It's not in a residential it's in a residential area, but it's not on the residential streets, if you will, where there's homes on this side of the street. So we don't see, a lot of pedestrians out on the roadway, no kids or anything like that. But certainly a tense situation as they try and get this over with. Okay. All right. Oh, lucky there. Yeah. Oh, he's going to stop this. Look at him. He looks like he's trying to get in position to pit. All right. Yeah, absolutely. It hits the brakes and it just skids, right? Just skids right on the asphalt. We're on Alicia Parkway now southbound, traveling towards the Laguna Hills area, or in Laguna Hills, traveling towards the shoreline almost. And we did see a moment ago when the vehicle made a turn, it hit the brakes, could barely stop at the intersection. It was a red light, and then moved out into traffic and was fortunate it didn't get hit by another vehicle. There's a semi through there that was able to stop and slow down, but the suspect did get desperate and pull into traffic at a red light. But you're right, every time the suspect hits the brakes, it really takes a while to slow this vehicle because it just slides on that rim. It's a Ford Focus. I believe it's a front drive vehicle because you can see when she stops and then hits the gas, the rim really starts to spin. You can also see that tight look there. It's really starting to rattle. More and more of it is going to come apart, and at some point it's just going to disintegrate, and then this will be over. We also noticed CHP got right up behind her when she made that turn, so I think they're looking for an opportunity to do the pit here on Alicia Parkway. If she would turn off of it, it would be a great place because you got a center divider. You don't have a lot of oncoming traffic. That's the type of thing they look for. They have a center median in between the opposite direction lanes of traffic. So we'll follow it and we'll see what happens. We did see one almost collision. It looked like maybe just grazed another vehicle. But besides that, we haven't seen any other damage or an accident as we followed this pursuit. And fortunately, the speeds are way down from that well over 100 miles an hour we saw on the freeway. Yeah, that rim can't last too much longer, and once they're up to speed, it appears they can keep the speed. There's more and more, there you see, hit the brakes, and when a red light comes, yeah, look at that. They hit the brakes but can barely stop for the intersection. So from what I've seen over the last 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so, once the vehicle got off the freeway, the real danger here is that this suspect, once they get going, they don't have much control of the vehicle as far as stopping it. It just slides on that left front rim. And that has almost twice now led them to go into an intersection across the red light. This time they were able to stop. You see the patrol car right behind them, push in on that rim. The more turns the suspect makes, the more pressure there is going to be on that rim. So going straight isn't too bad. But watch what's going to happen here in a moment. When this light turns green, you're going to see that rim just spin, and it will take some time before it actually gets up to speed. So at this point, it's hard to say exactly what CHP's strategy is. We're on Alicia Parkway southbound. There isn't a lot of traffic. They may have a unit up ahead, maybe deploying another spike strip to see if they can get a few more tires and disable this vehicle more, and maybe trying to look for an opportunity to do that pit maneuver, get it spun out, and then get this person into custody. There you go. Push into it. "25 minutes. I'm sorry, Brandy, if you asked me a question, they were talking to me in the other ear. Yeah, they need certain conditions for that pit maneuver. Like right now, they're not going to do a pit maneuver, more than likely, because the vehicle's traveling at a straight line. They like to get the vehicle making a turn, and then once it's in that turn, they can hit it from the side, and they'll get the vehicle to spin out. It's kind of hard to do that. Oh, boy, here we go. Stopping, turning into oncoming lanes. They may block it. Here's a pit maneuver. A pit maneuver is when you hit it, and you spin it, and you take the other car, and you trap it. Officers are out. Now, this is a dicey situation. We have to be careful here. We don't know if that suspect is armed. Obviously, it looks like CHP is moving in. 3 officers have surrounded the vehicle. They have their hands on their weapons just in case. They want to get this person out of that vehicle. They want to clear it. They want to make sure there's nobody else inside. They have enough patrol cars here to block traffic so they don't have to worry about being in the way of traffic. We're on Alicia Parkway at Highlands Avenue. At least the southbound side of Alicia Parkway is going to be shut down. And it looks like now the suspect is unwilling to roll down the windows and allow officers to take her into custody. We'll try and get to the other side if we can and get an idea what's going on. But at this point, it appears that she's refusing to come out of the vehicle. If it is a female, we've been told it was, we'll have to wait and see for certain. But the pursuit as far as the danger to the community for the most part here is over. And it looks like they may smash that window in and then try and get inside the vehicle that way. Smashing the passenger side window, at least they won't hurt the driver. Although that's not turning out to be all that easy. As they tried to smash that, I think you might need a bigger hammer there, if you will, because that did not smash open easily. There you go. He's going to smash it good now. And then they can just reach in and unlock the doors and take this individual into custody. And there you go. Looks like they did that. They'll unlock the door. The other officer will open up the door and take her into custody. It does appear from the demeanor of the officers they don't believe she's armed. They're not. It doesn't look like they've been able to look in there and see any type of weapon. And at this point, we'll have to see if she continues to battle with police as they try and take her into custody. But at least no one was hurt. We had that one little grazing we showed you on the freeway where the vehicle turned very quickly to the right, sort of clipped the bumper of another car. But it didn't turn into be an accident, so we don't believe anyone was hurt. And now it looks like CHP has cleared the vehicle Looks like Ventura County Sheriff is assisting them now. They've cleared the vehicle, and they've taken her into custody. Yeah, absolutely. I said wrong. That's Orange County Sheriff's deputies that are assisting them. Yeah, I said Ventura. So it's Orange County that's assisting CHP now. So they'll probably take over on this since it's on one of their surface streets. It's in their jurisdiction. No one else inside the vehicle. She is down. She's in custody now. They'll have a female deputy that will come and frisk her once they have her cuffed and read her rights and then get her some medical attention if need be. But, fortunately no one was hurt. We followed so many of these things where, innocent people were hurt or killed in this situation. It was definitely dangerous at times. There's no question about that. But at least at this point it's over and it's no longer a threat. Yeah, she's obviously resisting. Yeah, she's obviously resisting, and they're obviously trying to be as careful as they can. I mean, you can tell from trying to deal with someone who is. It does appear to me to be a woman, someone who is resisting. They need to definitely get the female officer to frisk her. They want to make sure that she doesn't have a weapon on her. They'll use a female to do that because the suspect is female. And then they just have to try and make sure and keep her as calm as possible. They'll get her into a patrol car, and this will all be over soon. Certainly there was the risk that someone could have been hurt, but we don't believe anyone was. Open up wide. Open up wide. Just want to show where it's at. Right on. I think it's in Laguna Hills, to be honest with you. Alicia Parkway, south of the 5. I think we're in the Laguna Hills area. Let's push back in, and we'll take one more final tight look. They do have her in custody. It appears that she's not resisting them any longer. They have a patrol car. But if you travel Alicia Parkway, it's Alicia Parkway southbound at Highlands Avenue that's shut down. She was southbound, northbound. She was southbound and she turned into the northbound lanes. And so all the activity is on Alicia Parkway headed northbound, so out of Laguna Hills. And that could be shut down for a while. The southbound lanes are open. You're welcome. We need to go. Probably Orange County, I guess. There's a what? B-roll. So we got to go to San Bernardino. We probably ought to go to Orange County and get fuel. I don't think of any place else in between here and there. I just want to try and make Ontario. Yeah, we're clear. Let's go.